September 14 will of course be a wonderful night of boxing, as it will be Canelo versus Berlanga. Of course, on Mexican Independence Weekend. Now, of course, they will be fighting the UFC for, I guess, pay-per-view buys, I guess. And unfortunately for the UFC, Canelo kind of got them beat. Now, of course, in the prelims, you have Stephen Fulton, cool boy, making his return now in featherweight against Carlos Castro. Rolly Romero's coming back from his loss against Emmanuel Jaimes. Caleb Plant making his return against Trevor McCumby. And Lara is taking on Danny Garcia in his return since winning against Jose Benavidez Jr. And of course, who could forget the main event? Saul Canelo Alvarez will be taking on Edgar Berlanga. But besides that, we'll talk about the entire undercard, well, mostly everything, but we'll go quickly. We're not going to waste too much time around here. Carlos Castro is 30-2 with 14 wins by way of knockout and 1 loss by way of knockout. He was unfortunate enough to take on Luis Neri and Brandon Figueroa back-to-back. That must hurt. That was his first loss, by the way, against Luis Neri. Split decision. Meaning it was very close. So, of course, he did get dropped, so that was probably the reason why he lost. Figueroa, not so close. He got stopped in the 6th round, but of course, yeah, and now he's on a 3-fight win streak against not so good opponents. Good enough to get your mojo back, as people would say, but he'll be taking on the former unified super bantamweight world champion, Stephen Fulton, 21-1, 8 knockouts, and 1 loss by way of knockout. Of course, he is coming off of almost a year layoff since his loss to Naoya Inoue. Pretty bad loss. He kind of got outboxed the entire time. Well, of course, he also was very cautious, probably a little too cautious. But at the end of the day, it probably wouldn't have changed much. But before that, he defended it against Daniel Roman and unified with Brandon Figueroa. And of course, he also beat Angelo Leo for the belt, which of course we know Leo came back and upsetted Luis Lopez. So that win is aging very nicely. And of course, back-to-back undefeated opponents. Arnold Kigai, Leo Figueroa, very nice, and Avilar. Quick shooting, it's gonna be Fulton. Fulton's gonna win, most likely a very dominant decision. Of course, unless his chin got cracked, but then again, Castro is not really known for his power either, so I think he's good. Stephen Fulton will most likely outbox him 8-2. Mostly the 2 rounds are gonna be early. He's gonna get his rhythm going. 1 year off. Obviously not the best, but at the end of the day, a comeback is a comeback. Featherweight is, of course, wide open for people like Fulton and Figueroa. You got Vargas, Ball, Espinoza, and Leo now. Very nice fight. Stephen Fulton most likely going to win. Very wide scorecard. Not that hard of a decision. By the way, people like to say that this card is full of very much not even fights, basically. They're not going to... It's not going to be, does the underdog have a chance? They're like, hell no. But anyways... Rolly Romero will be taking on Emmanuel Jaimes. Jaimes is 16-1 and 11 wins by way of knockout and 0 losses by way of knockout. He is coming off of a 4-fight win streak with 1 KO in between them, which is not good for his record, as 3 of his 5 decision wins come very early. But his 2 blemishes come by 12-4 and Alejandro Rodriguez split decisions draw and unanimous decision against the 8-1 Pedro Rodriguez. Nothing to scoff at. Although his opponent's not the best, he is still continuing his win streak. So hey, that's good. Of course, his other wins, it's good. Nothing really excellent, but nothing trash. And of course, Rolly Romero, the former WBA super lightweight world champion, is 15-2 with 13 wins by way of knockout and 2 losses by way of knockout. Of course, his losses come very, very close against Gervonta Tank Davis and Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He lost, obviously, both of them. Some he did better in, other ones not so much. But besides that, he has had a bunch of good wins. Of course, his chin is much to be desired, I guess. But at the same time, if you get hit on top of your dome, that's not really something people really want. And of course, he's still young. He's 28, so he still definitely can do something. while Jaimes is still 24. So who's gonna win? It's gonna be, I actually don't know. Rolly has a weird style. I think maybe many people probably think that they finally cracked the code, and Jaimes definitely has the power to really exploit the weak chin if he really does have the weak chin, because getting hit flush by Tank Davis, I mean, that's going to knock anyone out. And then Pitbull got hit on top of his dome, so not really, didn't hit his equilibrium. So obviously, probably messed him up since round 1. So obviously, yeah. But besides that, it's probably going to be Rolly by knockout, probably round 9. I think he's going to get caught. He's going to get dropped, and people are going to think, oh my god, he's going to get stopped again. But no, he's going to catch him with something himself, and he's going to knock him out. And now, the return of Caleb Plant. We're taking on the undefeated Trevor McCumby. McCumby is 28-0 with 21 wins by way of knockout. Nothing to scoff at. But what is to scoff at is his records. 44-10, 41-13, 20-15. His last one was against the 17-3, which he won by unanimous decision. So that says a lot. But besides that, he actually has not faced. The only undefeated opponent he faced was his debut against his another debut. Everyone else is, not the best. I mean, 5-1 is good. 11-1 is good. By the way, his 7 wins by unanimous decision are against, I guess, step-ups, you could say. So safe to assume his power, it's there. You still need power to knock out, as people would say, cans. You ever try to punch a can? Sometimes they don't dent, right? But what I'm trying to say is his record is a little bit inflated, just a wee bit, especially because most of his fights are people who their only win streaks are literally 2. The highest win streak that the person he fought against is straight up just 2. Rest of them, they either lost one beforehand, either lost a lot of them beforehand, or is just you get what I'm trying to say is what I'm trying to say. But enough about McCumby. Now it's time for Caleb Sweet Hand Plant, as he is the former IBF Super Middleweight World Champion and is now 22-2 with 13 wins by way of knockout and 1 loss by way of knockout. Of course, he is coming off of a very, very bad beating against David Benavidez. Close fight, but not really. It's kind of like, all these rounds were Caleb Plant. All these rounds were Benavidez. They're kind of maybe like 1 or 2 rounds. People think, this one was a little bit close. Then before that, he beat Anthony Durrell, another former world champion, by knockout. Then he lost to Canelo Alvarez in the 11th round for the undisputed Super Middleweight World Championship. Now, of course, Caleb Plant is known for his footwork, his defensive, prowess, up until he got headbutted by Benavidez. So that's something. I mean, he was getting beat anyways, but he definitely would have pulled off a victory if he didn't get headbutted. God damn, Benavidez. It's not gonna be. This is another one where it's like, the underdog doesn't really have a chance. The only way McCumby has a chance is if Plant just straight up just gets arthritis in his knees. Then probably he has a chance there, because then he can't move. Plant by very wide decision. I'm gonna say 12-0. I know I said the other one was, he's gonna take a little bit of time to get into his groove. Yeah, McCumby can't do that. Yeah, I'm just saying. Carlos Castro is better than McCumby, so yeah. Anyway, the co-main event, Landy Lara, the American Dream, will take on Danny Swift the Garcia. Now, of course, Danny Garcia is the former WBC welterweight champion and the former WBC super lightweight world champion, a 2-division world champion. Now, of course, he is 37-3 with 21 wins by way of knockout and 0 losses by way of knockout. Of course, his losses come by split decision against Keith one-time Thurman back when he was active. He lost unanimous decision against Sean Showtime Porter, and of course the unanimous decision against Errol Spence Jr. Now, of course, he is coming off of a majority decision win against Jose Benavidez Jr., where he looked, pretty good, I guess. Danny Garcia is starting to get a little bit old. Definitely a lot of miles on the clock, 40 fights, a lot of wars. But he will be taking on a fellow old guy, as it will be Landy Lara, the American Dream, 30-3 with 3 draws. 18 wins by way of knockout and 0 losses. Of course, his draws come by majority decision against Carlos Molina. Technical draw against Venice Martrizian, 32-0. And Brian Castano. Very nice names. Now, of course, he was the former WBA Super Welterweight World Champion. And now the WBA Middleweight World Champion. Of course, BoxRec doesn't recognize it, so I can't tell him, you should do better research. Whatever, right? But his losses come by split decision against Canelo Alvarez himself. Now, of course, many people believe he should have got the nod instead of losing. He then lost. Well, he first lost to Paul Williams by a majority decision, but whatever. And then he lost a split decision against Jared Hurd. God damn, he cannot get away from close fights. For the unification fight in the Super Welterweight division. And of course, he defended it a couple times. He actually defended his fully instated WBA title against a Michael Zarafa. Second round knockout. Very nice. Now, of course, as you can tell, 3 wins by way of knockout. All when he started in the middleweight division. That's right, because Lara, well, he's old now. He cannot move as much as he could before. So now he literally has to sit on his punches. I mean, he kind of has to. His legs does be like, I really don't feel like it. I think I'm going to stay here. And then he just gets more power that way. He knocks you out. By the way, people are like, is this a close fight? Hell no. Look, I like Danny Garcia. He seems like a nice dude. He has nice fights. But did we not see Lara snipe Zarafa out the air? Like, goddamn, 1-punch knockout. And he's a southpaw. Danny Garcia has, oh my god, it's going to be horrible. The only reason why Danny Garcia has a better chance is because he is literally going to be fighting at a lower weight class. Because I think it's like a 157 catch weight or something like that, because Danny Garcia doesn't want to fight middleweight. So the title's still on the line, to my knowledge, or at least that's what other people say, because it's below the 160-pound limit, which means 2 flyweights can fight for the heavyweight belt. Don't think that will ever happen, but you know what? I want to see that. Why not? But anyways, Lara's going to snipe Danny Garcia out the air. I'm sorry. He's going to knock him out 5th round. I like Garcia. He could definitely be active 100%, but he's just going to get sniped. I'm sorry. He's just going to get sniped. He's going to get knocked out. But hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully it goes decision, but Lara's most likely going to stop Garcia. 5th to 7th round, I think, is most likely what's going to happen. And hopefully Lara starts unifying the titles, because he's old now. Might as well go undisputed. Because they're like, oh, but Jaimes whoops him. Lara whoops Jaimes. I put my 2 cents in. I'm going to put another 2 cents in. He knocked him out 3rd round. Okay, that's a little bit too much. But, anyways, the main event. Saul Canelo Alvarez, the former unified Super Welterweight World Champion, and the former unified Middleweight World Champion, and the former undisputed Super Middleweight World Champion, and the former Light Heavyweight World Champion, and now the unified Super Middleweight World Champion, as he has been stripped of his IBF title. He'll be taking on the undefeated Edgar Berlanga, the former knockout artist, now 20-0, 17 wins by way of knockout. He is coming off of a 6th round stoppage win against Patrick McCrory. And after that, he has had a 5-fight knockout drought against Quigley, Rolls, Caceres, Demond, and Nicholson. You know, people who probably should be knocking out, especially Quigley. But he managed to survive all 12 rounds. I mean, he was knocked down like 5 times actually. Or not 4 times, I mean. But, you know, whatever, right? But now, the unified Super Middleweight World Champion, 61-2-2, 39 wins by way of knockout. Of course, he is riding a 4-fight win streak since his loss to Dimitri Bivol, as he attempted to go for another light heavyweight belt. Now, of course, before that, his last loss was a majority decision against many people considered the GOAT, Floyd Mayweather Jr. But besides that, he has had an amazing career. And again, this is one of the fights people say, oh, this dude has no chance. And to that I say, you're right, but you know, we're gonna find a scenario where he wins. Of course, this is labeled and marketed as a Mexico versus Puerto Rico fight. Of course, Canelo is from Mexico, born and raised. Berlanga, unfortunately, was not born or raised in Puerto Rico, and he also still does not live in Puerto Rico, to our knowledge. He was born in Brooklyn, and now he lives in New York. But then again, Mexico versus New York does not sell as well as Mexico versus Puerto Rico. But He is coming off of the knockout against Patrick McCrory, which is a good win because he has fought actually bigger guys. McCrory, he was at one point 175 pounds, and he has faced good opponents himself. Like, these are not, you know, bad opponents that he faced. It's just like, well, you know, he just didn't have access to a lot of good opponents, so that's why he fought. Also, I think he also started late, so, you know, that says a lot. But like I said, we're going to try to find a way for the chosen one to get a victory here against Canelo. Will it be by knockout? Hell no. Hell no, he's not going to knock out Canelo. I'm sorry, Berlanga. We like you. Okay, well, some people like you. Most people probably, they have mixed feelings. But the way he's going to win, if he were to win, is using his jab. Of course, against Corceres and McCrory, he has a good jab, a really good jab. And, of course, that is a punch that, of course, Canelo at his older age, his footwork has gotten way worse, and he stopped. Look, I don't want to say way worse. Let's not sit here and say he was Canelo-Chenko, right? But he's definitely a lot slower on the feet than before, and his head movement has gotten significantly, slower, which of course makes sense for some dude with 65 fights. So obviously he's gonna start aging, even if he's only like 33. So he has the jab, amazing weapon he could use. He has a great jab. He also has some good body work he could use. Of course, that is possible, but unfortunately for him, even with the great jab, and if he were to invest in the body, his mentality would be the one that gets him beat, as he's not going to fight a defensive fight. Let's just sit here and say he's talking a lot of smack, obviously promoting the fight. So if he were to go on his back fight, which will of course make people hate him even more, but that's only as good as if you win. If you win, then that's good, right? But you might as well give him a show if you're talking all that smack, which of course he will most likely do, which means he will attempt to go for the knockout, and he's going to get knocked out himself. I think Canelo finally ends his knockout drought. But at the same time, Canelo also did not stop Ryder. He also did not stop 40-year-old Triple G, which I get it. People can't stop 40-year-old Triple G. His chin is still too good. But like, his body was like something that I think quite literally was seen as his greatest weakness. And he also couldn't stop 154-pound year layoff coming off a hand injury, Jermell Charlo, which I get it. I did say it was going to be split decision win, but hindsight's 2020. Berlanga, and also the defense deficient Jaime Munguia. He couldn't stop him. People say he was holding him throughout the fight, which I guess could be possible, but Munguia was kind of whooping Canelo at humongous points of the fight. So, Canelo's becoming way more hittable, and he's becoming more of a, not still target, but it's going to be easier for Berlanga to really land his punches. But at the end of the day, his mentality is going to be the one that gets him beat. He's going to go for the knockout, and he's going to get knocked out himself. Oh, I don't say he's going to go for the knockout, but he's going to go for a show. He's going to make it a show. He's going to get caught. He won't be able to get up, and Canelo beats Berlanga. But if Berlanga wants it up here, like, oh, but it's going to be a boring fight. Who cares if it's a boring fight? As long as you have Canelo on your resume, who cares? Snooze fest? Well, you could sleep with the belts. That's what you could do. But even if he were to just use the jab, stay on his back foot, he's still most likely going to lose. But, whatever, right? It's a good show. Berlanga gets paid. People get a good show. Obviously, people get, their money's worth, especially with this card. And Berlanga's still somewhat young. He's 27. Once Canelo vacates the belt, he could definitely jump on one of them. So, him being world champion is not out of the question. So, yeah. Obviously, going up the thing, I got Stephen Fulton 8-2 against Carlos Castro. Romero knocking out Manuel Jaimes in the 9th round. Caleb Plant damn near probably 11 rounds to 1, 12 rounds to 0. I got Lara sniping Danny Garcia out the air. And I got Canelo stopping Berlanga in the 8th round. But yeah, it's going to be a good fight. Let's not sit here in line and say it's not going to be a good fight. It's going to be a great fight for as long as it lasts. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Both of these fighters have had their moments. The referee really thinking about stopping it.
His days, where shall he look? Sugar Ray